happens every day to kids everywhere.
All you bullies, please stop it.
You may think if you don't hurt someone physically, then there's no hurt at all.
But there is hurt. Feelings can be hurt easily. I made this video to show how bad bullying is.
Please pay attention to this video, especially you bullies out there.
Why does it always happen to me?
Hey you, little kid, get over here! I'm gonna do something bad to you!
Hey you, interrupting my books. It's very unkind.
You're in the way of me and that little kid.
I need to run, but I can't break the rules.
Ha! Gotcha! You're not gonna like what I'm gonna do to you!
What did I ever do to you?
Nothing, actually. You just look easy to pick on.
Do you have any friends when you mess with people like that?
No. Trying to remind me of that? Trying to be a bully?
You know, the real bully is someone who's rude to people for no reason. The real bully is someone who chases people for no reason. She has a point. Being mean is doing everything she just said. Treat someone how you want to be treated.
Okay, what do I do when I feel bad for someone?
Just say sorry.
I have to say sorry to a lot of people. First of all, sorry for both of you what I did to you.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you for watching this video.
And if you see anybody bullying someone, please tell an adult.
Yeah, adults know what to do.
Bullies have no reason for what they do. Being nice always has a reason. Thank you, and stay bully-free.
Beginning of a list, those small little black dots. So for example, if you have a job such as secretary, that was your job experience, then underneath that job, you're going to have a bullet format of about 3 things. You don't want to do too many more than 3, but not fewer than 3, at least 3 bullets with an action word at the beginning of the statement. For example, maintained files for 25 employees, coordinated 8 team building events, earned employee of the month. So they're short sentences. They don't say, there's not a whole lot of words, but they're very powerful words and they show action. And you want to do it in a bullet format just like that. So it's very easy to read and beginning with a verb. Number 4, don't exaggerate. You will have to back up every claim you make once you get happening in schools called the choking game, where kids are actually choking themselves and each other to get this feeling of dizziness and this little high feeling. It's really scary. I can't believe how much information is out there and how so many parents don't know anything about this choking game. Have you ever heard of this? So we'll talk about that. I'm also going to present you some vocabulary, and they've heard that before. In fact, one of the jobs I had before, I had a phone interview. So it was very difficult because I couldn't see the person, they couldn't see me. And afterwards she told me, she asked me a question that really caught me off guard. I didn't know how to answer it very well. And it was the question, what is one of your weaknesses? And I just wasn't prepared for it then, you know, on the phone. And I said, well, I think that, you know, I was kind of taking my time and I felt so nervous, but I said, I tend to do the work myself. I don't ask for help a lot of times. And then afterwards, once I got the job, you are a registered student. You must have an email address, you must have regular access to the internet, and all of the classwork will be done on a web page, which you would have access to. You will be able to write me, you'll be able to download PowerPoint presentations and perform all of the activities and the tasks that I'm requiring from you as a student. So this class is an adult basic education class, so it is not an English as a second language class. We have other classes for that. And this is not a class for you to get your GED or general education development or your high school diploma. But I will encourage you, if you are an advanced English speaker, if you do want to take your GED, if you do have an interest in developing yourself professionally, develop your writing skills, try to learn a new job skill, this is a great class for you because I incorporate all those necessary, essential skills to really develop ourselves. So what does this class teach? We're talking about workplace skills, including everything from how to write professionally to how to communicate. giving good customer service is something that we talked about in this class before. I talked about interviewing techniques, how to answer questions, how to carry yourself in an interview, what to do before, during, and after that interview. We have grammar lessons. We have a math DVD I show every single class, so you'll have about 15 or 20 minutes of math review or learning a new math skill with a professional teacher there at the whiteboard. And I also offer reading and other types of academic skills such as spelling and vocabulary and writing. And I've included this new topic, success at home, because of course we all want to be successful in a job. But the whole reason that we have a job and we're making this money is so we can bring our money to the home environment and provide a nice, safe, healthy place for ourselves and for our kids, right? So success at home is really important, and that's also what I'll be talking about today in 14B Family Matters. So the objective today, you're going to watch the show on a current topic related to your children, which will be the choking game. Colored paper, any fancy font, make it easy to read, no photos, no designs, just something very straightforward, a nice, good quality, neutral colored paper. And it's very important to try to limit your resume to just 1 page, 2 pages maximum. A lot of you out there are older, you've had lots of different job experiences, and you could go on. I mean, if I wrote down every single job I had, it probably would maybe be 6 or 7 pages going back to when I was 15, right? But you really want to limit your resume to the job that you're applying for. Like I have a military resume, I have an education resume, I have a physical fitness resume. I have many different types. So you just have to really be able to organize your jobs and your experience according to the job that you want. Okay, 2 pages maximum. About 2 pages is what I see now and then, but not more than 2. Because what hiring managers have how long to look at a resume? 10 seconds, that's it. I promise you, they're not going to read 3 pages of your resume in 10 seconds. So, also what's important in making the resume easy to read is to have a 1-inch margin all around your type. And all 4 sides of that paper have a 1-inch margin. It makes it look much better and more centered. And it's so important to proofread, edit your resume for spelling errors, grammar, punctuation, format, and factual errors. It's so easy to type in the word, 2000, or the numbers 2008 when you meant 2009, or typing September, spelling it wrong, and you just see it a million times. When you look at your own resume, it's hard to be your own critic. It's very important to have other people proofread your resume too. And if you go to an agency such as Sacramento Works Career Center, they will not only help you write the resume, but they'll proofread your resumes and really give you some great advice. And on my lots of other shows before this one, I've given you the information about Sacramento Works Career Center and the website. And also that website is a link on my website too, so check it out. So remember, your resume is a reflection upon your entire work history, and it must be flawless, and it must be professional. The nuts and bolts of a resume, there's no official format. You think, what is it? How do I start? What is it supposed to look like? But there are a few tips to help you get started. First of all, you need to have a heading, and that means, what is your information? Tell employers where and how they can reach you. And it's just something simple as having your name, your address, all this. Make sure that you have your zip code. Make sure you have your number with your area code first, because sometimes 530 is mixed up. Or a lot of people, they move to California from a different location and they keep their old number if they have a cell phone. And always include your email address. If you don't have an email address, it's time to get one. Time at home and the types of priorities they put on all of the events they have scheduled when they come home from school. You can observe their academic progress. You can watch them as they develop their critical thinking skills, developing those problem-solving skills. And then, in turn, you can identify areas of weakness and strength. Maybe your child is a little bit weak in spelling, but they're very strong in creativity and imagining things and writing the stories. So you're able to really have a good idea of your child's progress and the things that that child might need some help on. So you need to have the heading, and I'll show you some examples as we go along. Number 2, the job objective is very important. Some employers might say it's not important, but it really is, in my opinion. In my opinion as a teacher, because if you don't ask for a specific job, the company probably won't choose you. They need to know what you're looking for. Why are you sending me this resume? What do you want to do for our company? So you need to write one good sentence, that's all, just one really good sentence to explain the kind of work you're looking for. For example, seeking a full-time entry-level position in a computer software company where I can use my demonstrated abilities in administration, marketing, and advertising. This is a very straightforward sentence. It's just one sentence. It's kind of long. But I am asking for a specific job. I want full-time, entry-level. It means not a manager, not a supervisor, just somewhere just to start off. In a computer software company, I have these abilities, and this is why I want the job. So you need to ask for something. Whatever you want, you have to ask for it in these days, especially when you're asking somebody who doesn't know you. You need to be very specific. If you send a resume into, for example, Apple Computers and just have your name and your education, there are so many different jobs at Apple. Everything from, being the president to cleaning the floors. You need to write your objective, what you're looking for. That's very important to do. Number 3, you have to write your education out. You're going to include not only if you've been to college or high school, but any type of training that you've had on the job. Apprenticeships, on-the-job training, workshops, seminars, military training, self-study. You can take classes online at your own pace. Any high school, vocational schools, or any colleges. Include all of those things if they pertain to the job. If you took a class on how, ceramics, and you want to have a job as a secretary, that might not be the place on a resume to put that. But if you were trying to be an art teacher or be some assistant at an art gallery, then you would want to include that you do have an understanding of art history, for example, and you understand ceramics. So just make sure that it pertains to the training that you're going for and the job that you're going for. And it's important to start with your most recent school or your most recent program first. So on one line, you're going to give the date of completion, the degree that you were awarded, if there was a degree awarded, and the school's name and the city and state. For example, 2006, Nurse's Certificate, Ford College, Tracy, California. I just made that up. And sometimes they don't have a degree. You can just say, self-study for, computers, Microsoft, something like that. Your work experience, this is very important. You're going to include any full-time, part-time, military, casual labor, volunteer work, any type of work that you did that pertains to the job that you want or the job that you're hoping to achieve someday. And you also want to start with the most recent employer first. On one line, give the dates of the employment, your job title, the company's name, and the company's city and state address. For example, June 2006 to present, Nurse, Mercy Hospital, Tracy, California. And then underneath that is where we have that bullet format of all of your responsibilities using the resume buzzwords, those action verbs at the beginning of every line. And your accomplishments. Use the writing assignment from Lesson 6A to help you list your accomplishments. Remember that? The event planner for over 50 clients and 600 total guests. Fluent speaker of Spanish and French. Proficient in Microsoft Word programs. Earned Employee of the Year at last job. All right, so you're going to write all of your accomplishments for that job that you did. So it's actually kind of fun writing a resume. And I have just a few examples of some different formats. I got these off of google.com, off of the images. I just copied them. So I know it might be hard for you to read them, but at least you have an idea of the format, and I'll read along with you with my mouse. So here is our heading, Michael Meyer, and all of his information, his phone number, his email address. He said, right here it says relocating to New Jersey. So he doesn't have an address yet, but there is a phone, a cell phone, and an email address. Here, this girl, Sarah, has witnessed kids choking themselves. And this is just the beginning of this really scary topic. So what kids are doing, they're playing this choking game to feel a brief sense of euphoria, like dizziness or a feeling of highness. And so they're not using drugs or using substances, but the feeling is the same. But it's a very dangerous game. It is estimated that about 1,000 kids have died in the United States from choking. Just to feel, just for that brief second, a little dizziness. Can you imagine? Did you know that this was happening? And maybe your child or friends of your children might know about it, or they might have participated in it. So I'm here to tell you that this is very serious. It's all over the internet with lots of videos, and there are groups out there, which I'll talk about later, which are trying to prevent this choking game from going any further in the school system. I also found an article here on www.kveo.com. This is a TV station in Texas, New Jersey. This is one type of format. Let me show you another one. Here's Rhonda Dolliver. This is her heading over here. And I don't know if I would do this margin here. I couldn't cut it out, but she has a nice little margin all the way around. She has her qualifications up here. Office equipment operation, problem solving, customer service, her experience, administrative support with her bullet format. She's got 3. And then here she has 2. I would have had 1 more if I were her. I would match them 3, 3, 3. Employment history, her education and training, and her community involvement. That's another type of format. This one is a more common format. Here's your header, Catherine Tollner, her education, her legal experience, her skills, and her certifications. So those are some different types of formats that you will practice when you write your resume. And here are 3 websites to help you out. A lot of them offer free templates. You can just type in your information and they will create the format for you. These will also be available as links on my website. And I'm getting ready now to turn it over to my old good friend Jenna Roberts. Algebra Today, number 5, the first half, the first 20 minutes. Have your paper and your pencils ready to review. Or maybe some of you, this is new, or you haven't seen it in a long time. Every time I watch Jenna and watch these algebra tapes, I'm so impressed at the way she explains things, because algebra was not a very good subject for me in school. I had to take it a couple of times over because I had such a bad grade. And I would always wish, oh, I wish Jenna was my teacher back then. So we have a chance now. So enjoy Algebra Today, and I'll see you back in a few minutes.
Percents, and percents is a very specific kind of proportion. The word, excuse me, the word percent means for each per 100 cent.
But this Dr. Atala, a child psychiatrist, what's really happening is by reducing the blood pressure to the brain basically starts an irreversible process of dying. And if you squeeze too hard for too long and there is not blood going to the brain, the cells are dying, creating brain damage, creating lots of problems with headaches, with seizures, and ultimately death. Can you imagine, just from squeezing on that neck on purpose? So Dr. Atala, child psychiatrist, her quote, "By reducing the blood pressure, the brain basically starts an irreversible process of dying." All right, so I found lots of different articles online, lots of parents that have posted pictures of their children with a website about stopping the choking game, and so many parents wrote that they had no idea that their kids were involved in this type of activity. And I mean, young kids, 11-year-olds who have died, 13-year-olds, 15, kids who are brilliant and smart, never have touched drugs, but they wanted that little feeling of highness, and now they've passed away, unfortunately. And unfortunately, a lot of parents don't know that this game is happening. The Center for Disease Control reports that 93% of parents had no idea of this deadly game until their children were dead. And what's happening is when kids choke themselves, sometimes they use a rope or a belt or a tie. People have passed away that way. So it might look to the parent or to the outside reporters that it's a suicide. And a suicide is when you're killing yourself. But it's interesting because the choking game, when the child's playing the game, it's just a temporary feeling of highness. But then, can you imagine the whole other side of the pain and the suffering of the parents to think that that child killed himself or herself? So a lot of these choking game deaths were thought to be suicides until it, you see these videos. I'm not going to play any videos for you. You can do that on your own because I don't want to promote this activity or show kids who might be watching the show, who are younger, how it's done. But I want to say it's very dangerous. Do not ever do it. Don't ever encourage. If you see somebody doing it, if you're watching, if you see someone in the hallways doing it, you stop it right away. Don't ever let this happen. And they, as I mentioned, the kids play the choking game. They do it to each other and to themselves by using cords, their own hands. They use belts, neckties, rope, anything like that where you can squeeze that blood supply off from your neck. What are the clues that children are involved? How do you know if they're doing this thing at school or by themselves? Well, I found a few things on the internet I'll explain to you. If you see on your child or your teen any unexplained marks or scars on the neck that they don't want to talk about, that could be an indication that they're participating in the choking game. Their eyes are bloodshot from the squeezing of the blood vessels bursting in the eyes, bloodshot eyes. If you go into the bedroom and see ropes and belts, etc., tied in strange knots, or if you see ropes, belts, ties, etc., that are tied to bedroom furniture like bedposts or doorknobs, it's an indication they're doing this. If your child is complaining of headaches, it might be an indication that there's a problem with the blood supply to the brain. Just think about all of this together. So headaches could be an indicator. Also, if they are starting to lock the bedroom door a lot, lock the bathroom door, a lot of deaths, I did my research here, is when kids went to the bedroom or the bathroom, locked the door, and the parents checked in on them a little too late, and they just thought, why would they lock themselves in and they never did this before. So locking the doors. And then evidence of abrasion or wear and tear or marks on the rods of the closet, the bars that go across the closet. The children might hang themselves for a little while. It's just crazy. I can't even believe I have to talk about this. But anyway, it does happen. Over 1,000 kids have died. So think about all the kids that
I think are very easy, but you have to be comfortable with division. So what you do is divide the numerator by the denominator. So here's 9, and we're going to divide it by 10. The language here is very specific.
Just for a few minutes too long, or a few seconds too long. So be aware of those clues. And so let's talk about some other tips that you can take away from this show. Some tips for you to communicate with your child about the choking game. Number 1, communicate with your child that the choking game is deadly, it is not cool, and
dividing the numerator by the denominator, which means that the denominator goes into the numerator. So when we make our little doghouse for division here, the numerator goes in the doghouse, the denominator goes outside the doghouse. I don't know what else to call it, so I just call it my doghouse for division, and that's what I'm referring to. Now, we have practiced dividing whole numbers before, and we know that if a number is too big to go into a whole number, we add a 0 and a decimal. So 10 won't go into 9, but 10 will go into 90. So we put the decimal up here, raise that decimal up. 10 goes into 90 9 times. 9 times 10 is 90. Subtract and you get 0. So 9 divided by 10 is 0.9. So 90% converts to 9/10, which converts to 0.9. And I'm putting this 0 here just to indicate that there's a decimal. It makes it a little bit easier to see because that decimal sometimes can just be a speck. But if we have a 0 there, then we know that there's a decimal there. If you don't put the decimal, it's not necessarily wrong. Now, some people who are comfortable working with decimals and percents know a shortcut. And I am fine with teaching you the shortcut, but it's very important to me that you know why the shortcut works.
It is really hard to say no to our peers that are all encouraging us to do something we shouldn't be doing, or something that looks really cool and exciting, and we have to be the one to say no. It is really hard. But as a parent, you lay those ground rules that, watching the internet, there are videos out there, and there are kids that think it's really cool, and they're taking videos with their cell phones of their kids, of the other kids choking themselves in school and stuff like that. So you just lay down the rules. Internet access, you're not going to be going to these sites. You're not going to be locking your bedroom door if I don't know what you're doing in there. And you're not going to be hanging out with a crowd of people that are taking these risks. It isn't worth it. So you can block internet sites, you can block certain keywords. There are programs you can buy if you have a computer at home. And also, if you go to public libraries, a lot of times the libraries have built-in systems where they block certain websites that come up for violence or things like that. So you can do the same thing at home if you own a computer. You can block certain internet sites, you can block the keywords. Just be really vigilant, be aware of what your child is doing on the computer. And talk to the parents of your child's friends, inform them of this game, of all the warning signs. Make sure the word gets out. And you want to establish with your child a system of asking and knowing where your child is and with whom they're spending their time. And that goes for anything, right? You want to know where your child is, who they're hanging out with, and you want to be able to have those open lines of communication.
So 0.9 times 100, put down the 0, 1 times 9 is 9, and you have one number behind the decimal. So 90% is what you get when you convert 0.9 back to a percent. So again, I made up a chart here that you can zoom into, hopefully soon. And this chart shows you, for example, for 90% percent here, we went to 9/10. And then here you can see that to convert it to a decimal, we divided the numerator by the denominator. Let's zoom in a little closer if you can. To get the decimal, which is 0.9. And then to convert that back to a percent, we multiplied it by 100 to get 90, so 90%. That works every time. So let's do that again with a different number. The next one in the line is 4%. 4%, which is the same as 4 hundredths. Because remember, percent means for each 100. So this is 4 for each 100. And then you want to reduce this number. And to reduce that, we want to divide both numbers by the common factor, the greatest common factor. And the greatest common factor of 4 and 100 is 4. So we divide top and bottom by 4, and we get 1/25. So to convert 4% to a fraction, we start by putting 4 over 100, then we reduce to get 1/25. Okay? So 4%, I'm not going to rewrite that because it's right up here. 4% converts to 1/25. Then, if I want to make 1/25 into a decimal, I divide the numerator by the denominator. And again, since 25 is too big to go into 1, I put a decimal and add some zeros. And since my decimal is here, my decimal moves up to here, which means I have to fill in all these spaces behind the decimal. So 25 doesn't go into 10, so I have to put a 0 there. 25 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. Subtract and you get 0. So there's no 0 to bring down, so you're done. So 4% converts to 1/25, which converts to 0.04, which then again is 0.04. Now to convert this back to a percent, 0.04 times 100, we get 0.04 and 2 numbers behind the decimal, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we put that decimal point, and that's my percent, 4%. That works every time. To convert from percent to fraction, you put your percent over 100 and reduce. To convert from fraction to decimal, you divide the numerator by the denominator. To convert from decimal to percent, you multiply by 100. So these steps work every time, and you'll see that in your packet that you'll be receiving anytime now. So let's work on actually calculating some percents now. Now that we're kind of comfortable with converting percents, and again, you'll get some extra practice with that in your work packets. Now what I would like to do is calculate some percents. So I'll start with some very basic questions like, what is 25% of 16? What is 25% of 16? Now, these kinds of problems translate directly into proportions, and it's the same proportion every time. Now, when we talked about proportions last week, I told you that the important thing to do to start with is to decide what two things you're comparing. And in this case, you're comparing part over whole. So we always start with 100 as one of the relationships. Because remember, a proportion is a relationship that states that two ratios are equal, and those ratios are comparisons of two quantities. And the two quantities we're comparing are part and whole. And the first ratio that we are using is percent over 100. So whatever the percent is in the question, it's going to be over 100. And then that's going to be equal to the part over the whole. And the way we abbreviate that is
to train and run a marathon, right? 26.2 or 26.1, 26.1. 26 miles, and you get a cold and you're very sick.
Use this proportion. Percent over 100 equals is over of. What does that mean? Well, if you think about it, when we say of in a problem like this, what is 25% of 16? We're asking, what is this part of this whole? So of is the whole number that we're wanting to know. We want to know what number is this fraction of this greater number that is the whole number here. And in this case, that's 16. So we rewrite this proportion. First of all, we put over 100. And the percent that we're talking about in this problem is 25. So 25 over 100 equals, and we already said the of is 16. 16 is the whole that we're talking about. The is the number that we don't know about. That's the question. What is? What is 25% of 16? So that can be our variable. And I like to use x as a variable. So now we do what's called cross multiplication. And I'm going to erase this and move this over here so that I don't have to stoop all the way over to get this done. So we have 25 over 100 equals x over 16. And we cross multiply, which means you multiply across and bring the answer down. 100 times x is 100x. And 25 times 16 is 400. And then we divide both sides by 100. And we get x equals 4. This is the algebraic way of doing it. If you're not comfortable with algebra and you don't really understand algebra itself, another way to do these that I've had students tell me is you multiply, or let me see, no, you multiply the two numbers across and divide by the third number. So if you can draw a diagonal connecting two numbers, you multiply those and then divide by the third. So again, 25 times 16 is 400 divided by 100 is 4. So the answer to this question, the question is, what is 25% of 16? The answer is 4. 4 is 25% of 16. Here again is a place where a lot of people make the same mistakes. Because this problem involves percent, they put a percent sign right here. And that is wrong. Because the question is not asking what percent of something, it says what number. Even though the word number is not there, it's what number is 25% of 16. And 4 is 25% of 16. So don't add that percent sign unless the question is what percent. So I think I've said that enough. Let's do another example. Let's do one that does say what percent. Like, what percent of 25?
Well, we're going to move on into division. I told you we're going to be moving fairly quickly today because we've got a lot to cover. In division, what if we've got something like this? 603 divided by 9 equals what? And if you were dividing that, now there are different ways that you can do it. Some of you could do that in your head. If you didn't think you could do that in your head, here's how you could set up the problem. You could say 9 into 603, and then we can work it out long division. And you need to know, again, your multiple.
And again, if you're not comfortable with algebra, remember all you have to do is draw a diagonal that connects two numbers. 100 times 5 is 500, and then divide it by the third number. 500 divided by 25 is 20. Is that right? Help me out here. Yeah, that's right. So x equals 20. Yeah. Always check my math in my head. Sometimes my head is wrong. So the answer to this question then, what percent of 25 is 5? The answer is 20%. 20% of 25 is 5. That's how you would answer this question. In fact, it's a good idea a lot of times to write out a sentence. That way you can make sure that you've actually answered the question.
Back to essential skills. I hope that you enjoyed that lesson talking about percents. It's very important, and we use percents every day, many, many times a day, whether you realize it or not. We use percentages a lot. Figuring out tips at restaurants, or discounts at grocery stores and department stores. So it's so important to review those skills. So that was 8A, how to build a powerful resume. Our next lesson will be 8B.
How many times? 6 times. 6 times 5, 30. Okay? Nothing left over. Now we can go to the next number. Will 5 go into 3? No. So we can put a 0 up there. 5 will go into 35 7 times. So our number is 607. That's our answer. Okay, these have come out even. These have come out even. What happens when you have a division problem?
But don't let it stop you. Always think about all the things you can do, all the great productivity that we can have during our lives. And have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time on Essential Skills.
498 pieces of candy, and you wanted to put 8 pieces in each bag. How many bags would you need to hold your 8 pieces of candy if you had 498 pieces of candy? So let's take a look. 8 will not go into 4, but it will go into 40.
Essential Skills. My name is Melissa Daly, and thank you for joining me today. Today we are in our 7th week of instruction, and today we are going to talk about how to buy a car. So many of you are asking how to buy a car. There's so much information to know, and there's a lot that you need to do before, during, and after the purchase of your car. So I'm going to use a video that I showed you last year. If you were a new student, then you have the chance to watch watch it again. This is with our family friend Chris Bauman, who works at Nielo Volkswagen, and he sat us down and talked all about everything that you need to know to buy a car, including the financing, all the paperwork, credit history, references, etc. So we're going to watch the video today. And also I'm going to review from last week, episode 6.
There's also several other things you can do. If you have a remainder of 2, the other way we could write that, and we will get into this a little bit more when we get into fractions, but if you have 2 left over, you can actually use it to
Go to the store. There is a difference between can and may. It's very important to know the differences. As an English as a second language student who is more advanced, this is definitely something that could help you. And also review if you maybe have been in more of an informal environment and you're now entering a more formal environment, or would like to develop your professional skills and really sharpen up on your English grammar. I know a lot of you out there say that you would like some help in English grammar. So that's what I'm here to do. So I'm excited about today's lesson. This is a distance learning program from San Juan Unified School District. We have many classes on TV, and we also have a large DVD library of classes that have been on TV and other types of series that you can only find at Sunrise Tech Center and Winterstein Adult Center. English as a second language, GED DVDs, algebra, and so much more. So please come down to Sunrise Tech Center or Winterstein Adult Center and check out our free, DVD library. Come down and we'll get you signed up. Essential Skills is an adult basic education class. This class can be taken by anyone who is 18 or over and has an interest in developing your workplace skills, math skills, reading, writing, grammar, critical thinking, and professional development. This class is also suitable if you are an English as a second language student and you are more advanced and you would like some help in real-world English, real-world lessons on how to develop in a workplace setting, and also just to have some more practice with real, more advanced English than you might get in an English as a second language class. And I also tell you that I give you math classes almost every week, and that ranges from everything from adding all the way up to algebra. So it's something different every time we show a math DVD. And those math DVDs are available at Sunrise Tech Center in our DVD library. So this
skills in a word problem. And we're going to be dealing with averages right here. And in order to find the average of something, you have to be able to add, and you also have to be able to divide. So let's just take a look at a word problem. What if we had 4 neighbors and each one of them was throwing a party, and we found out how many guests were at each one of these neighbors' homes for a party? And we wanted to find out what was the average number of guests, though, at all 4 of these parties.
Logging into a website, accessing things, responding to emails. And this is really great practice for you if you ever have a chance to take an online course at a college or university. Then it kind of gets you into the mood of accessing websites and understanding how to navigate around websites that are educational based. So I'm hoping that in this one class I can meet all of your goals, whether it's developing your English a little more, helping you get a job, creating a really great resume, and also developing your math skills. So anything that you need or would like for the class, please let me know and I will do my best to include it in the class. So I'm doing a review now of job hunting tips and the secret to getting the job that you want. There were 3 secrets that I shared with you last week, and we're just going to review them very quickly here before we move on to how to buy a car. The first thing that I told you was to really get the job that you want, you need to show those hiring managers that you can learn the job quickly. And to understand what the requirements of the job are, you need to find out what those duties and responsibilities are. And the way to do that is to find the job that you want, say for example nurse or secretary, and you go to these 2 websites. These are the ones that I suggest, but you can go to any job search website that you would like, monster.com, careerbuilder.com. Type in the word nurse or secretary and you will find the job descriptions for each of those jobs. And then you know exactly what those requirements are. And last week I also gave you a writing assignment where you would go to one of these websites or your own favorite job search website, type in a job that you would like, and you would write down the most common duties and requirements for that job. So this will kind of help you learn what the requirements are, and then you can understand what you need to do to get those requirements under your belt. The second secret to getting the job that you want is to show that you will do the work. As I mentioned last time, just because someone can do the work doesn't mean that they will. And you need to show that you can and will do the work. And so what I asked you to do and to think about was to list those examples from the writing assignment and add some details to your examples. And I used the example of event planner. If you were an event planner, and the requirement would be, for example, ability to multitask. And your example, something that you've done before to show that you've multitasked, I used the example of that you had organized 3 events in one weekend. And then here you would add some details. One party had
A look at the average weight of 3 children. And let's just say that one weighs 30 pounds, one weighs 22 pounds, and one weighs 15 pounds. Again, what do? First we add up. 5 and 2 is 7. And then we add up 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 67. And how many weights were we actually adding up to get our total? We added up 3 different weights. So here's 3 different numbers that we added up. We divide 67 divided by 3 equals what? 3 will go into 6 2 times, and 3 will go into 7. How many times? 2 times. But we're going to have
unfriendly people and uncooperative people, even if they are qualified for the job. And as I mentioned before, a lot of us have had to work with really difficult people, and it's very hard to do. But you need to show that even when you work with annoying people or lazy people, you still can get the job done. And the best way to do that is to show that your hiring manager that you are friendly and easy to work with, no matter what the situation is. It really does depend on your attitude. So your writing assignment to review, most of you should have done it by now, but I'm waiting for you to send this to me an email. So I asked you to show that you're a cooperative and write down some good examples from your past to show that you have a good attitude. That means you're eager to pitch in, help out, and do more than what is required. You're easy to coach. You don't become defensive, emotional, or argue when you're corrected, which is sometimes hard to do, not get defensive. And then here it's a little dark, but I hope that you can read it. You also need to show that you have good people skills. You can do your work even when you're surrounded by annoying, demanding, or lazy coworkers. It's very hard to work with lazy people and you're working so hard and they're sitting there drinking coffee, smoking a cigarette, and texting. You still need to get your job done. Your writing assignment was to read some ads from a website, create a list of the 4 most common job requirements, and give an example of when you performed each of those requirements. If you have any questions about this writing assignment, you can refer to episode 6B. The PowerPoint is on the website. Number 2, the writing assignment also asks that you will show that you'll do the work and list details for your examples from the last writing assignment. So list the details for your examples that you found in those common job requirements. And the third part of that writing assignment, show that you're cooperative, write down some good examples to show that you have a good attitude, you're easy to coach, and you have good people skills. And what the purpose of the writing assignment is that you will start to think about very seriously your professional career, the positive and the most successful things that you've done. You've given examples of each time that you've done something that was positive, and then you also have some details. What this does is it sets you up to create a very powerful resume, and it also can create a lot of information for you to keep handy in your head and on paper when you go to a job interview. Your opening comments For example, when the hiring manager asks, why should we hire you? Why do you want this job? What value do you have to our company? And you can answer, this is what I've done. These are some examples of the work, and these are some details to show that I really did create some successful.
Looking at getting carpet for something, you can find the area of a space by multiple.
When that hiring manager says, would you like to say anything else before we leave? And you say, you know, I just wanted to reiterate that I am very qualified for this job. I have a great track record to show that I have had success and achievements in my former jobs. And I'm looking forward to being a team player and a team member for this company. For example, so you have all that on paper and you have confidence, you've practiced, you've prepared yourself very well, both on paper and in speaking by doing this writing assignment. So it's very important, not just for me that you do something in the class, but do it for yourself and for your professional career. And now I'm going to move on to our grammar lesson. Can or may. Well, I didn't get to finish it last time, so I'd like to review what we've done so far, and then we'll have a little test to see how you do using can or may. So look at the following sentences. Sue asks her mother, Mother, can I go to the store with Kim in 5 minutes? Mother says, I don't know, Sue, can you? This is something that you will hear if you've used the word can the wrong way. You should have said may. People usually will respond by saying, I don't know, can you? For example, can I please, can I please walk to the store? I don't know, can you? Does that mean, do you have the ability to get up and move your legs, right? So Sue realizes that she used can instead of may, and she changed her sentence and she said, I'm sorry, I mean, may I go to the store with Kim in 5 minutes? So what's the difference here between can I go to the store and may I go to the store? Can, in this case, is used, and it's by its definition, to mean ability, to be able to. So actually, Sue is asking her mother, Mother, am I able to get up, move my legs, and go to the store? That's not the right use of the sentence. And then she corrects herself and she says, I'm sorry, Mother, I mean, may I go? Do I have your permission? And you're asking permission in a formal setting to someone of a higher authority.
They feel they're not quite sure what to do. Let's take a look at this. What if we had 13.0057 and we add 2.8 to that? Where would we put it? Here it is, 2.8. Once again, even though you have all of these,
or they're below you, like your daughter or your son or your family member or your friend. Let's try this one.
Decimal, and you just add it up. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. Okay, let's look at subtracting. Let's look at subtracting decimals. What if we had 1357? 13.57 minus 2.8. Now what do we do? This would be the same as if you had, if it makes you feel better, you can put a little pretend 0 there. But 7 minus 0 is 7. Now what do we do here? We just borrow again, very simply. 15, take away 8, 7.
Tense and the voice. And as I talked to you last time, mood means what type of sentence is this? Is this a question? Is this a fact? Is it a command? What is the type of mood that the sentence is trying to convey? And when we talk about tense, we're talking about the verbs. Is it past tense, present, or future? And when we talk about voice, the voice of the sentence means it's active or it's passive. Active means present tense or something where you are the...
7.2 minus, and we know our 3 has to go here. Here's our decimal point, 0.7.
Passive means that the object, song, comes in the beginning of the sentence. That song was written by me. Active versus passive voice. This might be review for some of you, active versus passive. I won't go into the specific lesson of active versus passive now, but I will tell you that can and may are auxiliary verbs, and they do help set the mood, tense, and voice of a sentence. The word can, as I mentioned earlier, indicates ability, to be able to do something. For example, I can't ice skate, but I can ski. And that means I am not able to ice skate, but I have the ability to ski. I can't slide around on ice, but if you give me 2 long skis, I can do my best to stand up on them. Here's another example. Can he lift 200 pounds? Does that mean, does he have the ability? Is he strong enough without hurting his back to lift 200 pounds like this little guy here? That guy can lift 200 pounds. The word may, on the other hand, indicates permission, to be permitted to do something. For example, you may buy some new shoes if they cost less than $50. And this is something that I would say to my son or my daughter or someone, you know, where we have a budget and they're asking me, may I buy some new shoes at off-Broadway shoes at Birdcage? You may if they cost less than $50, which is easy to do at off-Broadway shoes. They have great sales. I love that place. So by saying you may buy them, you are permitted to buy some new shoes only if they cost $50 or less. Or asking this question in this example, may I try on your jacket? It's so pretty. Will you allow me to try on your jacket? May I please? You know, will you give me permission? So as I mentioned before, sometimes you can use can for permission. In writing assignment, you have these 5 words: naive, nominate, novice, impede, and ponder. Do you remember? So make sure that you complete this writing assignment: naive, nominate, novice, impede, and ponder. Email me your sentences. Do it today. Just get it done. Make the most of your time management skills. We talk about how you want your children to have good time management skills doing the homework. This is your homework, and I hope that each one of you will get this done and get it into my inbox as soon as possible. So the next show, we are going to talk about a really great service that I found out about recently. The Sacramento Public Library and all the programs that the libraries in Sacramento offer, they do offer free online services such as help with writing a resume. They have help with job interview skills, with writing assignments, with other types of literacy. I can't wait to explain all that to you. And if you have a library card, you can go to any one of 27 libraries in Sacramento and have access to these free programs, and even a personal tutor, someone who's on the other end of that computer who can help you one-on-one. A wonderful program. So I'd like to leave you with a quote of the day from Bruce Barton, a very famous author, and he says, if you can give your son or daughter only one gift, let it be enthusiasm. Be excited and motivated and enthusiastic about your parenting, about your son or your daughter, your child, about their lives, and that will give them a great example and get them interested and excited about parenting as well. And to really ensure success at your home, keep open those lines of communication. Be enthusiastic, show an interest. So thank you for watching Essential Skills. I'll see you next time. My name is Melissa Daly. Have a great day.